back. Another episode of Scenario, man.
Hi.
We here, man. We had a full podcast before we even got on.
We did do that. I was thinking, it irks me whenever material doesn't get used.
No, but this is more. It's the warm up period. Some things don't need to be on air. Some things are just for the, for us in the private time, and they can pay for us.
Don't say us in private time.
Well, the private. You know what I mean? Not private time.
Oh. No, definitely not that.
Not private.
No, we'll never know each other that way.
Yeah, not at all. Hopefully not.
No, I can guarantee you we'll never know each other that way. I don't want to actually come
in your crib. Hey, man, I got the equipment, and then you matting it
like
up on the couch with somebody.
This is home.
Because we're too old to actually. You're too old. We're too old to catch somebody having sex now.
Well, yeah, that just ain't. I can promise
like
you're
too old for that. Like you should. We're at the age now. You can't catch me having sex though.
Nah, hell no. You married.
Exactly.
I went to your whole wedding.
Yeah. True.
I don't need that in my life. I don't need to see any of my boys knocking their women down.
Officially a single.
Am I?
By the government.
Oh, by the government? Say, do you know something that I...
No, the government say you single.
I was panicked for
old school people say you single or you married.
You know the people, there's a whole bunch of young people that say that too to cover up for the fact they can't find nobody.
That's true.
And the people that be saying that stuff be the main ones that be trying to find ways to get their friends out of their relationships so they can kick it with them. And those are the worst people.
And keep in mind, I'm the same person that doesn't believe marriage is needed in life in general. So I was just being an asshole.
It's okay. It's fine.
So let's get it, man.
Well, hey, before we get too far, we got guests today. I don't know how I describe our relationship here. It's maybe cohort. We've walked a lot of the same steps in life here. Here we are again here back in the Scenario Studios again. Got my guy, my homie, my way back 15 so years or so now. Probably
a decade and a half now.
Golly, getting up there. Got my man Travis in the building. Travis, what's up, man?
Hey, guys. This is cool. The Scenario. Awesome.
You got to talk like that the whole show now.
Man, they going to think you white, though, man.
Oh, my bad, guys.
We haven't had our first white guest yet.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, we haven't had our first white guest yet.
We haven't yet, no.
We've had
an Asian
brother.
You got an Asian brother? Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The old Tani, that's going to be hopefully our spot.
Yeah.
Some of my shit coming up. But don't do that. We want to be a crown jewel for the first white person to be on this show.
Okay.
Crown jewel. You can't say crown jewel right now.
I'm about to say, hey.
Fucking up with that.
Hey, no, we can't.
WWE guys check out all this layer of fuckery that they doing right now. They doing a pay-per-view from Saudi Arabia on Saturday with Hulk Hogan hosting it.
Hulk Hogan ain't hosting it. Is he hosting it for real?
Yeah.
No.
Hulk Hogan ain't hosting it. Wait, I did not know
that
this.
happened this afternoon. Hulk Hogan's hosting it.
No way. This is fantastic.
So is it all women in?
Ain't no women. It's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, man.
You told me before though. I guess they couldn't do any women or something.
Yeah, because they in Saudi Arabia. They don't allow women over there.
They just let them start driving a year ago.
Right, and I think that was just all part of a bigger plan to hold them down.
Yeah.
My thing is, why don't you want a woman to drive you drunk home? That's what I've been doing for years.
John Cena opted out of this thing.
He did.
He said, "I'm not doing this."
Him and Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan.
Now, did Daniel Bryan actually get out of it? Because he was still being advertised.
He did. I guess they wrote him out of the competition.
This week.
This week they did it on SmackDown. Yeah.
I'm have to watch that.
So he's been written out, and Daniel Bryan and John Cena will be staying in.
Yeah, they said we're not going. We don't agree with this stuff. We're not going.
And then Roman Reigns got cancer, right?
Yep. Leukemia.
Damn.
Tough time around the block in the old WWE.
Kind of hard to feel sorry for a billionaire, but Vince McMahon is going through it.
I don't feel sorry for him because he's
Parkinson's.
No, Vince McMahon just old as hell. He gonna outlive us all though.
Yeah, Vince will still be here.
Yeah, Vince.
Triple H gonna end up being like Prince Charles. He gonna be old as hell. It's like you ain't never gonna be the king. You know that, right?
I can't have this, please.
We continue with our introduction, though, man. People don't know his name. They just.
I said Travis. I already said it.
But you ain't got to tell him who he is, where he's
Why I gotta say you started scolding him for his voice. You color blocking bastard.
Hi guys, I am Travis. I work at H&R Block. I've been there for 3 years now.
You do not work at H&R Block. They are not going for that. No, but
I
so
took college algebra 3 times.
like, who the hell is this nigga actually? But no, me and Travis work together. We still work together. Travis is co-host of St. Louis Live here in St. Louis. Part of We're Live, which is a much bigger media empire on top of that, so
The kids call it empire.
they're doing a lot of cool stuff over there, man. Him and his partner Chris Denman, who is kind of like our warden, if you will, for our activities. If you're here locally, I do I guess guest spots on there. I feel like David Letterman back on the
No, you are absolutely Jay
No,
Leno.
you're Arsenio Hall filling for Joan Rivers.
Who the fuck is Joan Rivers? He called you Joan Rivers.
That is very nice. Damn, Joan Rivers. I forgot Arsenio Hall did fill in for Joan Rivers.
And he got his own shit popping though.
That's right.
That's a great compliment. I love Arsenio Hall.
Yeah,
do you love Joan Rivers?
I mean, I guess as much as you can love Joan Rivers.
That's fair. But we went to Mizzou together. We got a lot. So we got a lot of. But we also have to share history because we also used to be co-workers,
yes,
if you will, for about a year or so.
We did indeed.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that a little bit, but we just want to bring Travis in to give a chance to have different perspective on a few different things, a few of the topics of the day. He is, as you will find out, uniquely talented at commenting on some of these things. So
I will acknowledge that I will say some weird shit, but I do apologize. But if you have to send an email, just don't send it to me.
No, that's fine.
No, they'll send it to me. All emails get directed to me.
I don't know how Matt ended up becoming a hated guy though. Like, people hate me in general though, man. Like, I was a chimp of the week though in 2012 on the racist website.
I'm sorry, what now?
I never told you about that.
Chimp of the what?
Chimp of the week.
The chimp of the week.
Stormfront. It was Stormfront's on their message board.
Chimp of the week.
Chimp of the week, nigga. They had me fucked up. They went through all my shit. No, it wasn't 2012. It's 2010, 2011 when I had my blog, and my blog was popping, and it was doing this shit, and I was, just speaking on issues for us though, when it came to sports and community issues, everything, and they found me, and I remember I get a whole bunch of hits though, and I was like, God damn, what the fuck is going on? So I look at the analytics and see where it comes from. Stormfront. Chimp of the week, you know how that little thing. So I click on it. They got like 9 pictures from Facebook, and they got some unflattering pictures of me though too. Though I'm like, it's got me with some drinks in my hand and shit though.
This was an actual website 6 years ago.
No, more than that. It's actually 2010.
2010. Okay.
So roughly.
And it was called Chimp of the Week.
Chimp of the Week. It's on Stormfront. It's still on there if you want to go. I'll send out the link though.
That is so.
I send out every year to let people know and everything.
Oh,
so
it's like an anniversary, huh?
Yeah, it's coming up around May of 2019.
That's some Octavia Spencer type of racism.
Dude, no.
Like that's racist.
They
broke
me
thick
down.
racism.
They had found out I went to an all boys high school. They found everything out about me. They broke everything out about me.
Did you piss off Anonymous?
No, Anonymous fuck with me though.
Oh, you're a friend of the program?
Yeah, their friend is a program. Yeah. No, this is the racist website Stormfront is.
I just didn't know if maybe they had some dual employees.
No.
Anonymous is pretty altruistic as long as you're not on no fuckery though.
Yeah, no. We're good. I'm good with Anonymous. Anonymous fuck.
But to get Chimp of the Week,
I didn't know that this was a thing. I've learned a lot in the last 3
I
minutes.
didn't realize Chimp of the Week. Well, I don't know if they.
No, I was talking about you being good with Anonymous.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good with them.
So here's my thing: like there are 53 weeks in a year. That's a lot of damn chimps of the week.
There's 52 weeks a year.
Okay,
unless you added one for the chimp, the week of the chimp.
The week of the chimp. The ultimate chimp. I didn't win the ultimate chimp award. I didn't get.
Is there an ultimate? I was going to ask you at the levels.
I didn't know.
Were you moving along through a competition? Could you have possibly been the chimp of the year and you just don't know it?
Yeah. You know what? I think Jay-Z is the chimp of the year though. My year.
Oh well, that's tough competition.
Do you put that on your Throwback Thursday Instagram? Like, this is when I was
really
chimp of the week back in 2010.
Though, man, just because it's like negativity, man. Like,
that's fair.
I don't really even kind of cesspool that.
But you would have to say that you have to, considering how many black people exist, to make it as the chimp of the week.
Yes, it's really man.
Can I ask a question? Why monkeys, apes? Why is that the next step after?
Because they think that we're primates. You know what I'm saying? That we're.
But primates are smart and strong.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, but they don't have any emotional intelligence, any things that are being quote unquote human.
Right.
That's why they think that we're below human beings. So that's why
Apes like bananas
that
and they clean each other.
Yeah,
They have a very responsible
they're very,
community.
very much like black people. We take care of each other, even though we
They got
we
a
fight
vertical?
but we do fight, just like chimps do. They be like, "Nigga, you fucked up. You took my eucalyptus leaf. We gonna fight about this shit, and we gonna bang it out."
Be careful, you're gonna get nominated again.
They can't find me again.
I
No,
look
it'll
forward-
probably be me now because
Well, no, yeah,
it's
you've been
hated
getting
as
them
I
beefs,
am.
man. Mentioning beefs, we can jump into these emails.
Yeah, let's go. Is this one about me too?
Yes.
How did last week's show did I offend anybody?
No. Somebody, I guess, re-listened to the show where you were like clowning the NBA.
I didn't clown the NBA.
Well, they didn't think this. They didn't think the same way you did. Next up, this email comes from ST. He says, "Scenario, y'all show is dope as hell. I listen to it all the time in my truck as I drive, but I gotta say that Matt has a disconcerted difference when it comes to the NFL versus the NBA. Do you know the NBA's ratings went up the most of any sports entity going forward? NFL is making great money, but can they sustain this over time with CTA and other different things? And I like how he said that LeBron wasn't going up against them on a Thursday night, but he got up in their ass on that Thursday night with ratings. Look at him. Shout out to y'all, though. I fuck with y'all all day, every day. Peace."
I had my days mixed up.
No, and I just and the fucked up thing, I didn't even look it up. I just acted like, okay, well, shit, you said it wasn't. Well, shit, that's my nigga.
First of all, shout out to
you
using.
just trust him. It's your boy. You like, yeah, that's what it is.
Shout out to using disconcerted. Well,
Yeah.
what happens
Yeah,
usually
hey,
is
look.
that we record this show on Thursdays, but we recorded that one
on a
on
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
like we are tonight.
So that one that threw me for
So
a loop.
anything that happens after tonight, please don't hit us up on the back end.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything tomorrow, so I think I'm good. But yeah, either way. I mean, the thing about it is, it still gets painted like I'm anti-NBA. Listen, man, I'm 6 years into my 2K franchise, and I'm dedicated. It's in a great place. It's in a fantastic place.
Amen.
I'm into my fantasy draft part of my year right now. I have the second pick. I took Giannis. I'm acting responsible about this. Yeah, I had to take like 4 white guys though, and I got 2 dudes on my team named Nicola.
You got the clan squad, huh?
It's something wrong with that. But here's the thing:
You can just call your squad Shea Whitey,
I got Jimmy Butler though, so
the Apex Predator.
I got the Apex Predator.
That makes
We're gonna have to
everything
fill you in on some things as we
Understand
go
about
along.
Did he ever feel like Apex Predator?
No.
He's our favorite player in the NBA now. Period.
Jimmy Butler is the Apex Predator.
No, like literally, that is besides O.J. Simpson, Ray Caruth.
Oh, geez.
And then,
oh, my. Aaron Hernandez? I would imagine
no,
he's on that.
he's dead. So we
Okay.
But honestly, but fuck them 2 dudes. But our real thing is Jimmy Butler. We really want Jimmy Butler.
But why is he in the same sentence as OJ and Ray Caruth?
He's just so dynamic right now. People don't understand how dynamic he is as a player.
Wait a minute. You just moved Jimmy to a different silo.
Yeah, I did. That was me.
Okay.
That was a personal thing.
I was like, I would just. That's
But I do
interesting.
want to innovate O.J. Simpson.
Jimmy Butler is just the dude that's sipping his vodka cranberry out the straw at the end of the bar, looking down at every woman in the bar with the same intent.
I see.
Yeah, that's what he is.
Jimmy
He don't
Butler's
get no
that
fuck.
guy. Oh, wow.
Jimmy
yeah.
Butler's the old dude that don't get no fuck at your job.
But isn't that where we all want to be?
Yes, that's why we respect him and like him so much.
I'm starting to
And he got these
understand
young
this
dudes,
Apex
and he
Predator.
okay, I hit your chick. Tomorrow Towns do.
Okay,
I
so
ain't
maybe
going for real.
maybe I did hit your chick. Maybe I
Maybe.
did.
Let's say
just say I did,
hypothetically.
See, y'all telling me Jimmy Butler.
Since you bringing up old shit, I'm all right, fine.
So Jimmy Butler, David Ruffin. David Ruffin.
Well,
did
state
not-
your case. This
David
show
Ruffin.
is-
David Ruffin was the baddest temptation
Yes.
and did not give an iota a fuck.
But David Ruffin wasn't built before the Temptations. He was just him and his
No,
brother.
the Temptations were the Temps,
Right.
but they
But
weren't.
they
They,
were-
didn't become the Temptations until David Ruffin.
No, they had some hits before that though. That'd be like saying like that the Minnesota went to the playoffs before that and they added Jimmy Butler.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they had some.
But
early
as far
hits.
as savagery,
yes, it
I would
came
say
with-
Ruffin.
brought him in. Yeah,
It's kind of like
To
if
the
Bobby
goal
Brown would have showed up when Johnny Gill did.
See.
yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Okay.
a good one.
See now
That's a good one.
because
That's a
that makes
good
more
one.
sense to me now.
Yeah. So Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Butler is basically, I don't even know how to even compare what we compare him to. Is he basically Sammy Hagar?
I can see that.
I think he's Sammy Hagar.
Maybe. You got to introduce that theme to some of our listeners. But.
Oh, is it because they don't get the whole. So Sammy Hagar became the new lead singer of fucking Van Halen. Van Halen. But what's our homeboy? He's a great fucking Stevie Richards, right?
David Lee Roth. Stevie Richards was a wrestler at ECW.
I know. Oh my God, I fucked up with that. Y'all fucking put me in the wrestling mind stage. Fucked me up.
He was the one that used to wear them coochie cutter jean shorts.
He
used to do that Shawn Michaels kick. I used to get real scared
and
when his nuts was
think
gonna fall
that Steve
out.
Richards is actually probably doing some other jobs though too though.
Like some odd jobs.
Yeah, like you cleaning up, you doing some other random shit, but you still here though. You can wrestle as a jobber here and there.
How does one become though that savage that Jimmy Butler is? Like Jimmy Butler wasn't a highly touted basketball player. This kid has
Butler
been
was homeless though. And made it to the NBA.
Yes.
So that's a
Can't
new
go back all stars. The great Bomani Jones said.
So his swagger is a little bit different than a Bron's or a Kobe's in that he wasn't the prize recruit. He wasn't the prize high school stud. He got his truly through grinding, having nothing, and now he's arrived and he's the man, and he's getting his David Ruffin on.
And now he ain't turning back on nothing. There ain't nothing he's turning back because he knows what the other side is like.
That's a scary place to be for a rich black man.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a scary thing for other people's women to be exposed to, too, because the apex predator ain't messing around.
He ain't fucking around with y'all, man.
Especially in 2018. And the era of Me Too, to be an apex predator takes savvy. Takes some real savvy, sir. Good luck.
So that's kind of where he got with that. But, I mean, I did draft Jimmy Butler. However, I drafted Kevin Love as well. Because good players on bad teams get numbers. So that's kind of how I got to that. But however, then I had a couple of panic choices where I picked up Gordon Hayward.
Okay.
And then I realized that I was kind of at almost an even ratio of black to white.
That's nice.
And then I was like, ooh, this shouldn't be allowed. Like the system shouldn't only allow me to pick up so many white guys in an NBA fantasy draft. Like
if you took more than 4, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, see, then you get to the dividing point about do European cats count? And I was kind of like, man, are these dudes white for real or not? So then I just kept going, and I was like, all right. I took Nikola Mirotovic,
of course,
from the Pelicans,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I also took Nikolai Vujicic from the Magic. And then
you just picked everybody from fucking Eastern Bloc.
And really then I got late in the draft, and I said, I need some shooters. Then I took Danilo Gallinari, and I got 5 white people on my team.
They're not white. They're Eastern Bloc white.
Well, so I got the Ivan Drago All-Stars, with the exception of Kevin Love, who hang out with brothers. So the only truly white person on this team is Gordon Hayward. So I reconciled it.
Sounds like the cast of Euro Trip.
Yeah.
I got Trae Young too. I got Atlanta's finest.
I
got Ice Trae.
Ice Trae. All 4'7" of them.
Look, man, that's messed up part. We predicted before the Bill Simmons podcast, a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yes.
That this was a great idea or a bad idea at the same time. We don't.
It's gonna be great for 4 months, and then you're gonna realize Luka Doncic was perhaps the best pick, and will ultimately end up being Rookie of the Year. So I think Atlanta's gonna be like, Nikes. What were we thinking?
He gonna go to the strip clubs. He gonna do everything bad. He gonna be out there bad.
Trae Young,
he got pretty hair.
Yeah.
You can't survive in that ecosystem of Atlanta with pretty hair and money.
It's
you
true.
Can't do it.
But here's the thing,
Very
though.
true. Absolutely.
So to walk it back a little bit, though, Quavo went on Bill Simmons' podcast, which is just one of the most unique combinations of people.
Excuse me, what?
I
guess.
Did you hear it?
I have not. I did not know this happened.
The thing is, it's very weirdly uncomfortable too, though. At the same time, though.
That's fair.
It's very weirdly like an old ass white man with a young ass black dude, though. Where it's like Bill Simmons knows a lot more than an older white man,
right?
But it's still a disconnect between this 20-year-old dude and this fucking mid-40s white guy.
What the hell were they talking about?
all sorts of stuff. Talking
everything.
about the tour, talking about Quavo's background, like how he came up. It was kind of like Quavo sitting Bill Simmons on his knee and him kind of hipping him to what game is really about. Because, I listen to Simmons enough to kind of know the things that he believes and stuff like that. And Quavo was kind of walking him back on stuff he needed to get cleared up on from the brother perspective.
Ah, I see.
So I was like, this is perfect. Like, he was like, the Hawks never should have traded Luka Doncic for Trae Young. And I'm like, well, maybe that's true because Luka is balling.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Luka Doncic don't belong in Atlanta when Trae Young can belong there. And this is our contention on draft night. And so to see it happen in real life, I was like, yes, vindicated. Trae Young should absolutely be in Atlanta. There's nobody who's playing style. But like Bill Simmons was also hipping Quavo the stuff he needed to find out. Like the fact that Dominique Wilkins used to be the apex predator of Atlanta in the 80s.
Now that doesn't surprise
me. And Quavo
me.
said, I'm going to have to ask my mama. And I was like,
Lord.
I was like,
Think about it, he's that age though. His mom would be kicking with them.
I was like, oh.
She was at the Highlight Factory, the real club.
And Quavo's the one Migo who can ball.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So they were talking a little bit about that too. So it was a good interview though. But
right, next up in our emails, this next one is this is gonna get us real contentious. So especially with y'all Mizzou cats here.
Oh boy.
This is gonna get real. Hold on, my phone shut off.
It's been a rough week for Mizzou alums. Oh my.
Next up, this one comes from my man Mike D with DEE. Shout out to my man Swiss. Oh, that's me. I want to give a shout out to your co-host that went to Mizzou. How does he feel about getting curb stomp coming up in next week though when Iowa State plays Mizzou?
A little college basketball.
Hey, man, I know what this is though. But I'm gonna put his real name out.
What cursed? What do we
Curb
do?
stomp next week. Jonte Porter blew his knee out.
Oh,
y'all
curb
gonna
stomp.
get real curb stomp though next week.
Oh, curb stomp.
How does they feel about it? And then their football season's going to Pitts the Hill. Shout out to y'all and everything. No doubt, Scenario is my favorite show. I listen to all the time at the dealership. Peace.
I'm largely unbothered because these are the things that we come to expect.
Look, I knew you weren't gonna be mad about this.
He's not gonna be mad. He knows how it goes.
Oh no, I don't. I think a lot of people assume like Mizzou fans and Mizzou alums are like, oh, devastated. No, we're just annoyed because now it's inconvenienced the rest of our fall because we knew this shit was gonna happen, and now we just knew that kind of game that was a
year and a half ago on our show. He defended Odom and saying he was a great hire.
He was a good hire.
He was not. And I remember we argued about it for like 5 minutes. Like,
I'm not walking back my opinion. He was a good hire.
No, he was not.
Okay.
You need to do a full search.
We're not gonna walk back a year-old conversation. What were you saying?
No, the game, the season has gone the way that I expected. I think a lot of people. I've had this conversation on our show. Like, there's a level of expectation I have for Mizzou football, and so they're meeting that. With all due respect, here's what I'm saying. Barry Odom isn't Saban. Barry Odom isn't even Les Miles. Like, Barry Odom isn't that guy. Barry Odom is coaching to the level I thought he was going to coach. I didn't think highly of Barry Odom, but I think he's meeting the expectations of the experience of a guy like Barry Odom. Like, if Barry Odom had a championship ring or had a championship pedigree, then I would be completely like upset and ticked off that this guy wasn't living up to those type of expectations. But this guy came in as a barely touted defensive coordinator. Yes, he had great ties. He was making the rounds in the coaching community, but nothing about his experience said to me that he was going to be a 9-10 win a year coach. As a Mizzou alum, it's not like as if I don't wish for it. It's just I know what I'm getting. Like
there's two different types of fans. There's fans that are like, we're going to win every game.
Right.
And then you got fans that are like, this is what this team looks like this year. This is kind of how I think it's going to actually go.
Right.
So, I mean, that's where most of the debates between fans of anything come from, are the ones that are just, like, championship. Like,
right.
Come on, man. You're a fucking San Diego Padres fan. You're not going to win the World Series.
Right.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
My trainer in New York she was a San Diego Padres fan.
Right. And it's like you said that. It's like when the season starts, you know what I'm saying, and you're like, national championship or bust. Like, motherfucker, you was at the University of Vermont.
Right.
You're not winning no title.
Right.
It ain't happening.
And now on that same part of that email, I see a guy like Konzo Martin, and I've been able to see what he's been able to do recruiting and what he does during the game, and my expectations are different because I believe he's an exceptional coach, an exceptional recruiter. So I think Mizzou should be a team that gets at least on the second day of the tournament.
See, and I think he's a good recruiter, but I don't think he's
a great coach.
as chopped in as a coach.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
I can see that.
But here's my thing with both guys at the point where they have to hire. Konzo was obviously more experienced as a coach when he came in. But my thing about it is like to the thing what you say about when anytime somebody, and I had the same thing about Mike Schilt with the Cardinals when they signed him. I said, you have to give different levels of coaches different levels of approval and different levels of expectation.
Agreed.
So, like, if you're bringing in somebody, like, to your point, like, if you're bringing in somebody who's got those national titles, and first of all, I think Les Miles is incredibly overrated because I think he's an ace recruiter who makes terrible decisions in game.
I think that's fair.
But also is the currency of recruiting is the currency of success in
Exactly.
college sports.
Exactly.
You know, if you can bring in a bunch of stars that make people get, look up in the sky and be like, oh, we've got all this talent,
right,
you get a little bit more leeway.
Right.
And that's just how it works, even if it ain't right.
Right.
But I say all that to say is that how I judge a hire like Barry Odom is different than how I judge a hire like, I don't know. Who's like Lincoln Riley, who's already there in the program in something that was already had success. Or when you look at Scott Frost, who just left an undefeated UCF team to go back to a university he knows, and they're 2-5 now. Or it's like when Urban Meyer gets hired in Ohio State, my expectation is a little different than when you're bringing in somebody new.
Exactly.
But see, my thing is, though, with the way that Mizzou was running their hiring system, they fucked up with the Kim Anderson hire, doing some like love thing. That's why I thought the Barry Odom thing was some lazy shit of being like, oh, we just gonna do this because it's sitting here in front of us.
I don't
the example I'm gonna give though, and shout out to my Iowa State people though. We here though now. We will cup stomp Mizzou for basketball in the first game though.
Damn.
But
it's rude.
You get my ticket, nigga?
I'll just say it's rude.
You want to go? You going still?
Yeah, I'm coming back. Cause motherfuckers is up here talking loose like that.
Yeah, dude. I'm buying tickets though this week. So are you coming? I'm taking a flight though on Friday morning.
Oh, I'm not flying. No.
You gonna drive?
I would have to. I'm gonna be in Kansas City.
Oh, you already gonna be in Kansas City?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I'll buy your ticket tomorrow.
Well, let's talk after the show.
Yeah. Because Cass was like, oh, man, where your Mizzou boy at? Cass was like, where your Mizzou boy at on the show?
See, where I'm from, Cass start asking where your boy at. That sound like they want to do something.
No, it ain't no fighting, no. Like
what y'all trying to do?
There ain't no fight.
How many people I am definitely driving.
One of them is one of your frat brothers, though. So
I done fought them before. that ain't nothing. That ain't nothing new.
But no, the reason I look at so when Iowa State lost Fred Hoiberg, they wanted T.J. Otzelberger to be. He's the coach now of South Dakota State.
Right.
They was like, yo, he's the next coach. Just don't worry about it doing anything. The president was like, no, we need to do a full coaching search.
Right.
They made him re-interview.
Right.
We brought in more people to interview and then decided who it was going to be.
Right.
Steve Prohm ended up winning. He ended up being our coach, though. We ended up going to Sweet 16. We ended up going to the tournament the last few years.
Right.
That's what we end up doing. That's what I'm saying on Mizzou is being lazy with the Kim Anderson shit. You just going to do a dude that's...
They weren't being lazy with Kim Anderson.
That was lazy.
They were being cheap with Kim Anderson.
Okay, lazy and cheap are the same things.
No,
right?
No. Being cheap is way different than being lazy. Because you can just throw a bunch of money at somebody and be like, oh, just whatever. Give him whatever he wants. Being cheap is different. Being like, okay, don't consider anybody above this level.
Now, being cheap and lazy, I think, are the same thing. Though they can be in the synonymous, though. But you can be not lazy and be cheap, though. If that makes sense.
Here's what happened with Mizzou. They had the girl they really liked in Frank Haith. They did, she wasn't anybody flashy. She came with some baggage. He probably shouldn't have been around to begin with. But, the last couple coaches that they had options, had choices. And so it felt like Mizzou decided we needed somebody that can't break our heart. We needed someone that can't up and leave, or someone that's going to be asked to jump to a bigger program in 2 to 3 years. We need somebody. We need essentially a fall guy, just someone to settle with, and that's ultimately what they end up doing.
Well, and now they are where they are.
Go ahead. Continue.
Oh, but I'm glad that Mizzou went through the Kim Anderson phase, because I said this on our show that, get this true son bullshit out your system. You brought back the guys that played for Pinkel and played for Norm Stewart. You did that. It was all nostalgia. Now that we've gotten that out your system, now it's time to be a big boy program and realize that you're in the SEC. And it isn't anything personal against Barry Odom, but I just think you're not an SEC coach. You can probably coach somewhere else in college and do all right, have a nice career, but you're not at that point where you can go toe-to-toe with the Kirby Smarts and the Nick Sabans of the world. You're not there yet. Not a lot of coaches are, but if you're going to be an SEC coach, you got to earn your keep.
I don't think Mizzou ever be there, but it's no.
That's fair.
Let's roll forward, though. We have a voicemail coming up.
He's a hater. He
I ain't a hater.
He one of them cats that left the state and jumped the fence. And
No,
You're one of those blacks.
One of
those blacks.
No, I'm not a hater like that. We got a voicemail coming up. Listen to this voicemail real quick, then we'll respond to it real quick.
Straight out of Lowcast is your boy BTG. Look, I'm listening to the last episode, man, and I'm loving it. Very accurate descriptions of classic horror boogeymen. You know what I'm saying? But I must say, man, we got to shed some light on some positivity. You know what I'm saying? These cats need love, too. And I think on one of my future shows, I got to give y'all the credit because it sparked an idea. I want to create a dating service for these cats. You know what I'm saying? I know y'all pointed out the negative things for, to help these women, but I want to point out the positive things, like, you know what I'm saying, to help these cats out. Like Mike, for example, Mike loved to walk. You know what I'm saying? Long walks in the park, in the woods. You know what I'm saying? We know this for a fact. And I heard low key that he could cook. I heard his specialty is cutting shit up with that knife. You know what I'm saying? So you look at Jason. Jason looks like he's physically fit all the time. The only negative thing that I can think about Jason is he can't swim. And look, come on, man. It's not a lot of people in this world that can swim. You know what I'm saying? He about 6'5", 6'6". It's hard to swim like that. Everybody not Michael Phelps. You know what I'm saying? But they both look like they got some great city jobs, at least. You know what I'm saying? Jason looked like he works for the management waste company, picking up trash. You know what I'm saying? And then Mike, I think he's been working for the oil refinery. So these cats got great jobs. You know what I'm saying? I know women like men with some height to them. So hey, what's up? You look at Pinhead. I'm not sure how his he's not a kisser. We know that. But the nigga could dress. He could definitely dress. The nigga got leather everything. You know what I'm saying? He stayed with, you can tell he's a people person because he got friends. You know what I'm saying? I heard he's very great with the Rubik's Cube or whatever box he be having. Again, there's a lot of positive things about these cats. Freddie, a sense of humor. Women like ugly cats with sense of humor. It bumps them up. It's like an ugly chick with ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, she don't look that good in the face, but her waist, you know what I'm saying? That's the same thing with Freddie. He might be a 6 or a 5 to them, but because he can make them laugh, and he will support your dreams. Everybody need a cat that can support their dreams. You know what I'm saying? And you never know. I heard he wanted to be a masseuse. Not sure how that's going to work out for him. But at the same time, look, you know what I'm saying? Let cats live. It's all a dream. Now, it's a lot of cats that does have some negative stereotypes to them. Like, for example, Candyman. All right. You got to call him 3 times for him to answer. But at least he going to answer on that 3rd time in the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Chucky, okay, he plays around too much. He acts like a child. But that nigga know a different language. You just can't let him speak that shit while he's playing around with your chest. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on with these cats. Bloody Mary, I heard, I don't want to bring her up. I'm still traumatized by her. You know what I'm saying? But these cats need love too. And I feel like we need to create a dating service. And I think I'm going to do that. Straight out of Lowcast, it's your boy BTG hitting you up once again, man. Long time fan. Actually, haven't hit y'all up in a long time, but this last show was a good one. And you know what I'm saying? I gotta talk about some basketball with y'all too. Definitely gotta talk about some basketball. All right, y'all, holla.
Great email from my man BGG Baylor the Great, dude. I didn't even thought about a dating service for those dudes.
I never thought about Pinhead being a fly cat that's in the club decked out.
and with the Eddie Murphy full leather suit on. No.
Might be a little bit dated style, but it's style of style, man. Bring it back if it ain't here yet.
Look, he's just like, yo, I just got out of jail. I just got the Rubik's Cube though. I'm coming out.
Hey man, if you got that cube, you don't need to be in jail in the first damn place. But I mean, that's like one of them times you went to jail and they never locked the door behind you. You could have been left.
Hey man, BTG is a dope, funny dude, man. Shout out to BTG.
You guys
man.
have fans and fans who actually like you. This is interesting. This is new territory for me. This is
yeah, your
this
fans
is pretty cool.
No, your fans don't like you.
My fans, they have what
segue into
a hate relationship with me. No, but it's great that you guys have enthusiastic fans. That's pretty cool.
Well, before we go down that, actually no, yeah. Let's get in that because it's part of the thing that I wanted to get into today was kind of the path that we've walked. Like like our listeners are really aware of like my career and some things I've done. But up until this point, it's kind of publicly at least it's always kind of been kind of alluded to, kind of joked around, and kind of that because I always felt that it was something that was worth a bigger conversation, and eventually we're gonna get a part of this where Daryl, you're gonna be able to speak to a part of this too, because it was a very interesting an incarnation that the show almost took on at one point or another that got that we'll touch on that, but I just
honestly I felt more upset for like you and your situation more than our show thing. Like that's more of a
it's good. It's like a conversation I was having earlier. It's like when you go through some of the struggles to try to establish yourself in some of the businesses that are here. There's enough built-in struggles as is, just industry struggles.
No doubt.
But I think that the thing that gets underrated and doesn't get the type of exposure I think it does is how much of the struggles that happen representatively.
Yes.
That how much of the voice that you hear in media is already a censored voice, and it's a voice that's censored by opportunity and lack thereof.
Right.
So, going back, me and Travis worked together at a local radio station here. You guys were kind of already, kind of give people kind of like a background of what We Are Live was doing, ahead of that, and what kind of how your career built up too.
Chris and I knew each other, of course, from our time back in Columbia when I was attending the University of Missouri, and we had lived together, we had been friends, we had worked together, and so we had always wanted to have a program where we can do our kind of conversations, very similar to what you guys currently do. We wanted just to be able to have an outlet to discuss a wide array of issues, and we were able to build a rapport and a relationship with local radio station here in St. Louis, and it was great. We got the room and the freedom to create the type of show that we wanted, and when we started putting in the type of show we wanted, we started to get positive feedback, started to get in the fan base, and people actually became interested in our program, and it got us to a point where when the station we were on decided to jump to a new station, a new venture, they wanted to move us into the drive time slot between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m., which is the sweet spot for AM, FM radio in any market, let alone St. Louis. And so it was a coveted spot, and we thrived. We had a great time. We had great sponsors. We had great guests, and we were building, but there was always this bubble, if you will, that we were in, and we never necessarily got the elbow room as perhaps other shows. And, of course, with us being a new show, you want to try to hit it out the ballpark every time at the plate. Realistically speaking, that's not possible. But that's how you grow. That's how you become better. And one thing that we realized early on, for whatever reason, we never got a chance to truly be the show that we wanted to be, or at least didn't get the same amount of time as other shows perhaps would have been given in that time slot. And so it kind of was a disheartening experience because you had built it up and you had hit certain benchmarks and you felt like you were going somewhere, but it turns out that we were just simply spinning our wheels, according to station ownership.
No, so I mean, and when you get past that, when you start to hear things about that, when you get to the level of like operation that we kind of were at, and and I'll go into my side of it as well, is that you start to have different things that are involved in it too that go over and beyond just what is being said to you by your superiors and whatnot. I mean, you bring in the media component, and then you bring in the public component.
Right.
And you have all these different things that happened with it. And, you know, I mean, so I guess before we meet in the middle and kind of talk about the bigger issue at hand of what's happening there, you know, at the same time, I think that maybe, I think it was just a little bit, we all moved at the same time.
Yes.
We all made the move at the same time.
Right.
And it was a much different place.
It was.
At that time. I mean, it was a station, and it had a lot of harmony between the people there. You know,
it felt like what maybe the early heydays of ESPN felt like.
Yeah.
Like everyone was legitimately
Wow,
interested in talking sports, talking social issues, and able to do it in a manner where, you know, everyone brought something different to the table, and it was just so laid back and casual. And again, it felt like one of those situations like, damn, this is too good to be true. But every time we came in to work, I felt like I'm going to learn something, or I'm going to see something that I've never seen before. You just felt like you were in some place special, so you were doing whatever you can to hold on to it.
And what it was a place of, you know, of a lot of different varieties of programming, but also a lot of people that are at different points in their careers and a lot of different things there. So when I came over after doing a stint on an early morning program that was on from 5 to 7, and, you know, just doing what I do, doing my normal thing, commentary, whatever it is, you know, and they got the attention of the, of management there at the station at that particular time, and reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, we'd love to have you come on. Now, I'm going to make a distinction here in management, too, by the way, because management was one thing and then it was a different thing due to the way that it was. Right. As far as the first part of management, the introductory management, the management gave me my break, you know, with the opportunity and extended it to me. Absolutely no issues there at all for me. You know, I mean, just was always a genuine person. I felt that was in my corner, would call me out if I wasn't on point, you know, but if I was on point, would absolutely, you know, give that respect, was willing to teach and talk and things like that. Like, I really, like, to your point, like a place that was, you know, a facilitatory of people growing their careers and things like that, you know. So he's great, you know, and still have a good relationship in this day, and I don't have anything bad to say about him, you know, but, you know, eventually the politics of the entire thing began to set in. You know, we had programs that were growing. We had programs that were diverse. I think that's the big point that I want to make is that you just had a lot of diversity of opinion. You had a lot of diversity of approach in what commentary was. And then, you know, there was a rather quick pivot that hit on how things were going.
Oh, yes. It felt like I had a better appreciation for NFL rookie quarterbacks, because you come into a situation where you're like, you're going to have to learn a lot fast, but you still need room to grow. You need that room that, hey, I'm going to have a game where I'm going to throw 2 or 3 interceptions. I'm going to have, you know, a stretch where I'm not hitting my guys, but give me an opportunity to be that quarterback, that leader, or in this case, the type of show that you project it to be. And if it's one thing that I knew about St. Louis radio is that all the popular shows did not become popular shows until 5, 6, 7 years into their run. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, considering the way we were going with our show, we were a little bit ahead of the curve. We were doing live shows at the pageant here in St. Louis with Adam Carolla in front of 2,000 people 6 months into our radio run. We were doing live shows at the Ready Room down in Manchester in St. Louis. Like, so we were doing that all within our first year of being on the radio. So we felt, man, if you give us that same time, energy, and money into what you do for your other programs, we would be something that St. Louis radio hasn't had in quite some time. It would be new, young, fresh voices, and we thought that's where radio station management was heading. But see, that's what we were like, oh, they're building the next generation of radio voices here in St. Louis.
But see, this is the thing, though, is that St. Louis is an old-ass city.
Yes.
And it's a reflection on that situation with yourself, though, as well, though. So they don't want to push the new people forward that are the new voices, new dope people forward. They want to be the old motherfuckers they just know that they hear all the fucking time.
Well, so kind of the point to that is that, you know, our original station manager was all about new opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, that was his thing.
That was his thing.
He was like, you can keep bringing these same people back and see getting the same thing, but nobody in this room already is getting any younger. There need to be new people, and more importantly than that, I'm excited to find new talents all the time, which is his modus operandi with the whole thing.
And you and I almost felt like we could run through a brick wall after hearing that.
Oh my
because
God.
It's the opportunity that most voices our age were looking for. And
it
so
was
especially black
anybody.
voices, anybody for that matter, but especially black voices, we're thinking, oh, shoot, here's a guy who's, thinking like us, who's near our age, who understands that the next wave of St. Louis voices have to start now.
Well, and also as an entrepreneur in
Yes.
the industry too, so understood, what it takes, who built, a lot of what
to
he
build
had
those
built
business relationships.
through that. Yeah, it absolutely did that, and was always really generous with breaking down that this is what it takes, and there's no easy truths. These aren't the easy truths that happen. This is what happens. Let me pull the curtain back and show you how decisions get made, what goes into this. This is what it takes. Truly like a crash course. I mean, it was a hell of a learning experience. But, I'm not going to delve deep into his business. He's told his story in of it. You can look that up and you can find it, through local papers and things like that. But I'll say kind of what the outcome was when, when he kind of made the best decision that he could, considering some of the things that were happening. We were all called into, the entire station was called into a meeting one
His
day.
back was against the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame him for doing anything that he did at all. I mean, you have to, in some of those situations, you have to do that. Because at the end of the day, you have your individual interests. And quite honestly, look at this country right now. You have a lot of people that are working in environments that just aren't conducive to creativeness or for health issues.
Yes.
Like literally the anxiety and the pressure of your job isn't causing you to be healthy. You have to do something to change that.
Absolutely.
And I never begrudge that, but we get called into a meeting one day and there's, the whole station is there. You never saw the whole station. When you're in radio, you never see the people you work with, like ever.
You
never
may occasionally see the people before you and the people after you.
Yeah, and that's it. You never see the people you work with, but everybody's here in one place. And then, the person who had money into the station, who owned a big portion of it, who had gotten what I guess was a majority stake in the thing,
right,
had decided that he didn't like what the station's output was and wanted to compete with the flagship station in the city,
ESPN,
who's backed by one of the biggest one of the biggest news media outlets in the country.
The biggest probably in the country.
Yes.
I think Disney Media right now is the biggest conglomerate in the world. So absolutely.
Meanwhile, we're a small AM dial station that's got people that are growing as successful shows, making money doing that, and you have other ones that are growing on the same thing.
They understand the whole pop out the trunk thing.
No,
Getting your money out the trunk.
Absolutely did. The original incarnation of the station did, but not the one that it was. The goal was to turn.
So
it
in
into.
that moment when that happened, there's the black man translation that's going through your head when he's telling you this.
Well,
what is the?
So I'll give you the black guy translation. Let me walk it back a little bit about where I was at with my show.
I got a whole different thing too, though.
with my show and with my program at that time is that my show was at that time 6 months into its existence.
Right.
Afternoon drive slot. Fantastic place for it to be at.
Right.
Had a name that was starting to grow.
You guys had the athletic voice. You had,
we had
the female voice. You got a great point guy in Messersmith. Like you guys were
Absolutely.
rolling.
We had everything that a show took. We had diversity of opinion. We had diversity of experience. We had everything it took. We had the platform to do it. But, like to your point, things have to have time to grow. Things have to do that. And there were rough ends to the show that needed to be worked out.
As most new shows will have.
Exactly. And things that would need to catch on. You have different people that were at different points in their career
Right.
that needed to do that. But that was kind of the goal of putting the show together the way that it was, right? Was to grow it and kind of lean on the star power of one of my co-hosts and with the name notoriety of another one, and to just continue to grow that way. But 6 months into this, and we get a meeting with everybody in the station where essentially your program and my program are segregated off away from that, saying we're leaving the main morning show, we're leaving them alone. They do their thing, let them do their thing.
Right.
We're going to leave the next show after that alone.
Right.
Do their thing. The show after that, leave them alone. We're going to let them do their thing. But we're going to move time slots with your show into earlier in the day and move this other show in between it.
Right.
Which, at that time, to me, immediately made me say, something doesn't add up here.
Right.
And that was that, let's call a spade a spade. Your show is being squeezed out of the thing despite being one of the most successful shows on the market.
Right.
Now, we talk about the black guy voice with that. What was the thing that went into my head right there in the moment about what y'all programming is about? Your program is about freeform expression.
It was. And while we obviously covered the sports of the day, we had 3 hours to cover. And I had told Chris and everyone on our show that, look, I'm not going to spend 2.5 hours talking about the NL Central. I love the Cardinals. I grew up on the Cardinals. I will be more than happy to spend what time is necessary. If the Cardinals are the lead story of the day, then that will be our show. But I did not like the kind of radio that was just plug and play.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to make it a listening experience where, man, it's going to be one hell of a ride today. No matter if the Cardinals won or lost or if they made a trade or not, I knew that when I tuned into this show that I was going to get a wide variety of things that would be great to talk about with my own friends. And so we had built that, and we were very happy with the product while recognizing there were things we could do to make it more digestible for the drive time audience. But to not give that opportunity to do that is what and we, like with any business, big or small, you know,
so you trying to talk about NBA, you trying to talk about different things like that.
Well, I just think just in any industry you're going to have your growing pains. And you know, admittingly, Chris and I didn't have an extensive broadcast background. I went to Mizzou for communications, but I ended up leaving with political science. So, you know, we didn't have an extensive radio background, but we knew we had put together a good enough product that, you know, they deserve another X amount of months to mold it into the program that grabs an audience. And we had seen other shows get that type of berth, get that type of room.
Yeah.
And so to not get it was disappointing because you felt like as soon as you were getting your wheels going, you were told, "Nuh-uh, we're going to go a different direction." And it really, and to a degree, not totally, but to a degree, it caught us off guard.
And what the uneven thing that happens with that is that then, you know, the congeniality of the room that we talked about in front got completely,
I can only imagine.
got thrown out the window because, you know, when you make a decision like that, you know, obviously on the business end of it, things happen, you know, like that. But when things happen in a way that are done with an ulterior motive, that's when it's a problem.
And that's the thing look, we chose this life, right? We chose this business. So we recognize that we're going to come across people that, you know, smile in your face and, you know, do everything else behind closed doors. But it just felt that we made sure our relationship started with a place of transparency. You know, we weren't trying to be fake or phony about anything we were doing with our show. There were moments where even certain things in regards to our content, I was like, we're not changing it, but I'm happy to have a discussion with you if there is an issue or something that you maybe have a misunderstanding about. So we were a very open, professional group of young guys who were just very hungry. So we thought we were doing everything you're supposed to do in this industry to succeed. And we learned right away that sometimes that isn't even always enough.
That even your best foot forward can get turned around and get stuck in your ass, basically.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So things were much different on the other side of that meeting. There was a new person that was brought in to be oversaw in management at the station that reported into the station owner. You know.
So what was your black translation telling you
so
there?
So what told me right then in that moment, well, I started asking different questions.
Okay, that's fair.
So the first thing, you know, the first thing I did was I asked one of my co-hosts. I was like, so, you know, what's happening? Because it was really interesting how after that thing they started to have different conversations with different people about different things, you know. So, but not knowing the fact that we're actually friends in real life,
like we're humans.
Yeah,
we interact and communicate with each other.
And I can name, you know what I'm saying, the people that were on my show with me. You know, in real life, TJ Moe was one of my co-hosts on there, and is a good friend of mine in real life. But TJ has a persona on air that is like a ramped up to 3,000 watt version of his real self in real life. It's not less genuine, but it's a type of person that if you sit down, that people will look at and say, he's racist or he's like this. But if you sit down and have a conversation with TJ and actually talk about it.
TJ is made for modern day media.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just
that way.
And that's what it is. But he's building a career off of it. The same way that I'm building a career off of my brand.
Exactly.
And you're doing the same thing and you're doing the same thing. he's doing it. He's not doing it in a way that, like you look at it and you're like, you should be on Fox and Friends or whatever like that. You know what I mean? But, so I mean, I sat down and I talked to some of the people on my show about, like what are the things that happen behind the scenes. And I'm just like, I can tell that this dude that runs the show that is trying to move us out. Yeah. Everything changed about the show, from saying that our show name had to change to the name of a program that was in a whole nother state that the owner of the station liked, so he just wanted to name this show after that show. And I said, that makes absolutely no sense at all. What does that have to do with anything? I said, when you look at streaming things like that, they're going to look at that show, then they'll see that show. I said, it's ridiculous to change a show in the middle of it. But what my show became was something out of 1993, where they started doing prepackaged intros and started doing things like sports break reports in the middle of the hour. I'm like, I said, anybody with a phone knows the score of anything. I said, this is unnecessary. This is dated. Like, this isn't it. But what it ended up becoming was more and more of a control flip to make this show something that it's not, and something that media doesn't need anymore. Because the goal is to compete with that other station. And that just wasn't going to happen. What the goal of what things should have been was to try to create something, to your point, Travis, that was completely different than what was already on air. But it just became as cookie cutter of a thing as possible, to the point where even they were trying to feed us lines and points to take, saying you have to have a take about this and that. So here's where the black man vision started to come into me. When it started to be things like, we're going to talk about Kaepernick. And I'm like,
don't do it.
I said, all right, we can talk about Kaepernick. That's fine. But I'm not going to say anything I don't believe. And I'm also not going to take the stance and the opinion of being the voice for black America. Because my standpoint is my standpoint. And you're not going to pit his point against me and make it look like we're fighting for civil rights in America. We're not going to do that. And I'm not going to be a part of that, which was something that caused arguments, because they wanted for me to be the black guy.
Ask a black man.
That fit, they wanted me to be Ask a Black Man, to be the black guy that fits into that thing and do all that. I mean, I went to go find out little things like, even when it came down to like my political views, which I go through a painful thing to do on air, to not take it to that extent, to say that I find out that my nickname behind my back when I'm not there is the Lib. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, really?
Wow.
And so what things really broke down to it is people writing sideline headlines and things like that, and putting stuff out there and saying that we're going to steer the narrative of this to basically just be the worst version of Undisputed that you possibly can have.
I think it's a
racially tinged Undisputed, basically.
It's a fine day when you realize the writing on the wall. Like when you discover that, this isn't going the way I had envisioned whatsoever. When you immediately notice a situation going left and in a hurry, it is a weird feeling to be in that moment. And to your point, that's where we were. We immediately recognized that some of the things we were expressing on the show didn't necessarily align with the views of the station owner. But I never conceived that would be part of our undertaking. Like, I never thought, I was like, well, everyone doesn't think like you naturally, so I don't see why in a business where we all have a voice, why mine in particular would bother you. But it got to a point where we had made it clear that because we had created our show the way that we wanted, we had complete creative control over the content, and I think they recognized that as well. And once they understood that, well, there's no way we can tell them what they're going to talk about specifically or what opinion to hold, once they realized that, and they realized that in a hurry, that they were trying to find whatever out they could in regards to our program. And that's fine. I often say this, though, to people, and look, my little sisters, I have young teenage sisters, so they put me on to a lot of the hip things to say. But one thing I can absolutely relate to is keeping that same energy. And
Shut up! Don't do that, man.
they're
Don't
keeping
do
that same
don't
energy.
Come on,
That's
man.
how. That's
You
how
ain't that old.
energy.
Motherfuckers will be like,
Yeah,
"Is you 45?"
the young people and their
Motherfucker,
energy. They got to keep it.
You ain't even 35 yet. You just turned 35.
But that's the thing.
keeping
like,
the same energy is that's just.
but you're right. But to that point, it's just so fascinating when people are just so fired up on one end, but aren't willing to extend you that same courtesy on the other. And so that to me was also an eye-opening experience. It's like, oh, you want me to say what you believe.
Exactly.
And if I don't, then there's a issue. And that's like in 2017, 2016, we were just like, wow, that's
And on top
weird.
of that, I want you to say what I believe. I don't want you to say anything I don't believe.
Right.
And that's where it got.
Yes.
And that's where it got on my end
That's a good
towards
point.
the middle of it, where and this is kind of the point that I get to about how the controlling the narrative of the voice in mass media right now is that it got to the point where I even got transitioned off my own show on an everyday basis in favor of the guy who was unemployed in the area but had talked his way back into the industry, and then he got control over one program, which was the one that I was on, where shortly after the female voice was eliminated from the show and the African American voice was eliminated from the show.
And this individual that took over, zero history of management experience, if I understand it correctly. As far as from a station standpoint,
I
maybe
think
a
that
couple
it was
of restaurants or a food truck, but
Well,
as far as
no. He brought in, that's just the owner of the entire thing. He brought in somebody from another station who had been let go from there.
Right.
In order to do that, but then talked into getting another chance doing the same thing. But then, originally stated, I don't want to be on air, I don't want to do that. But then started
How long did that last?
entering the studio during the show, in the flow of the show, and grabbing microphones and speaking into it, and then trying to direct the conversation, like pointing at people to talk during the show, during a natural conversation like we're having right now. So imagine if a fourth person walked in this room right now and then pointed at Daryl to talk, and then pointed at you to talk, and then pointed at me to talk. And that's what it's become, from a free flow conversation standpoint, to being a thing where you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, to then getting to a point where this person can't be on the air, that person can't be on the air.
That's wild.
To where essentially for 3 months, I got paid to do sit-in work on other shows, and which was awesome because I got to work with all sorts of people and do things like that and get away from that situation in particular, but then got paid to stay at home because I refused to not use my voice and say the things that I wanted to say.
See, now you did something that I don't know a lot of people of color in media are in positions to do, and that is to ultimately speak up and say, hey, that's not the role I'm playing for this show or this network. And we know a ton of friends, who do broadcast journalism across this entire country, and I would imagine they have been in several of those type of compromising situations, and some people have had to kowtow in order to, keep their career running. But it's a situation that I don't believe our counterparts realize still take place today.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing for me to look at it is that when you look, I mean, and there's about 2 more really egregious turns that this thing will take that I'll mention, and I want for Daryl to step in on part of this as well, is that, but I'll make this point too, is that, like, looking at the 2 different environments we had during our time there, it was night and day.
Oh, absolutely.
It was night and day. Like, when I look at this, you have one person who's an outspoken believer in liberal philosophies and things like that, and will fight these things and fights for standpoints about things in the city and things like that, and it's about progressiveness. And then on the other hand, when they just essentially did the same thing to him that they did to us from a different perspective, he had a bigger stake in it, had a little bit more control, and had a much more established entity that he could stand behind that they financially couldn't afford to compromise. But he's a guy that is just it was night and day. He promoted that sharing of the democracy, basically. Fuck it, call it what it is. A democratic approach to what we're doing, to it being as hard buttoned down. You either see it my way or it doesn't exist type of way, and you don't exist. So the experience that we have with that is a very direct microcosm of what you see happening right now, not only in mass media, but in the country at all. Either you get in line, or I'm going to use my position and my power to make your opinion disappear.
Unless you Kanye West.
You know, but now here's the thing about it is that you get to a point where you look at the same thing and you look at this city, and I'm sure that this city is no different than many other cities across the country, where you're in a time right now where you have as much diversity of opinion needed, and as much of a time right now where you have polarizing viewpoints and all of this, where in this city there are absolutely no African American voices on the radio besides mine and yours at 7 to 10 in the morning, with maybe one on ESPN 101 later on in the day.
I mean, you'll get Demetrius Johnson for an hour or 2 hours like on Sundays, and that's it.
You get Mike Claiborne doing
get
baseball
Claiborne
games.
doing baseball. You'll get Earl Austin, of course, doing with the Billikens, and he'll do a little maybe spots here and there for high school sports.
Yep.
But yeah, that's it. Of course, you'll get Charlie Tuna to jump on from time to time. So,
but when you look at
you don't have a sustained voice.
When you look
that's
at
on almost 5 days a week, 6 days a week, you don't have that here in St. Louis.
Day in, day out, there are things that are worth discussing to have diversity and opinion on.
Right.
And it doesn't exist in the city. And it did. And it got fucking whitewashed.
It did.
It is case in point when you try to say and understand what a privilege is. I'm not even ascribing a color to the privilege. This privilege, period, is privilege of power.
Yes.
And when you have this standpoint and you do things like that, you can block out the dissenting opinions from what you believe. And if you don't want to hear it, or if the people that are in your circle of friends don't want to hear it, and they know you have the power to make it go away, they go to you and make it happen. Mm-hmm. That's the story of where we're at right now. But the reason why I don't give it a color stance on it is that it's really easy to say white privilege.
Right.
But I worked for a white guy the first time that wouldn't dream of doing something like
exactly.
that. But then I worked for a white guy with a different belief system and a different standpoint who did nothing but find ways to tear down
but somebody argue with that, saying that other person is the majority of how people would feel. You were dealing with someone that was in the minority of how they feel and how they kind of operate.
Well, yeah, and
so the privilege is the privilege still stays the same, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So that other person was like, "Yo, it need to be white. That's what's gonna make us money, even though it's not making no money." That's the thing, though. All this shit of like you want it to be this way of homogenized and not being culture. Hip hop, blackness is fucking America. Right. That's it. Mm-hmm. Motherfuckers talking about Nicki Minaj versus Cardi B. That's on everywhere. You ain't got nobody talking about that on your radio station, even within joking, or at some point, you're losing money.
I think that it's your responsibility, if you're a programming director, a station president,
if you don't have no black person in your area, period, though, you are fucking...
Not even a black person.
And it's a black-ass city. Don't get it twisted.
But hold up. Let me make this point, though, is that you owe it to society, to people that spend money with your station, people who do anything, whether you own a podcast network, whether you own a terrestrial radio station, whether you own a television station. If you're in control of programming on that outlet, it is your responsibility to ensure there's diversity of opinion that is let out through your outlet.
Just making money. You go on the altruistic line of it. I'm talking about just making money.
No, but that's your point. I want to finish my point about it, though, because this is my experience with it. Is that, because we're going to talk about the money point here in a second, about where I really realized what this is, which is probably like the equivalency of somebody driving a car by and calling you a nigga and then taking off. We're gonna get to that point, because I'm saving the absolute crescendo for last for this thing. But it's your responsibility to make sure that you have a diversity of opinion involved in it, because there's never been a time in American history more prevalent than right now, where there are more diversity of voices that have a seat at the table. And if you take the chairs away from the table, you are fucking complicit.
I agree. I think one thing that we've seen, just even in modern day entertainment, the more diverse the cast, the writer's room, the people who are financing and distributing it, the bigger the phenomenon, the bigger the product. Like it I just don't understand here in St. Louis, where the same thing done over and over again. They believe it's moving the needle forward. And it's fascinating because they
don't want the needle to move forward.
And that's the thing.
That's what you're missing.
But here's the thing is
they don't care.
But here's what I go back to
forward.
again, having that same energy. That's fine. But then you're going to be a town in Alabama. Then you're going to be one of those.
They want to be there.
And that's. But here's the thing is, I hear two different things out of the mouths of businesses. They say, you may want to have this particular approach, but like, I want to be treated like Austin. I want to be treated like Nashville. I want to be treated. But they don't necessarily want.
They want
to
the visual
things exactly.
what it is.
And that's the thing is, but St. Louis has to get out of this mindset that the smoke and mirrors. You've been exposed. The city of Ferguson exposed you. You are the city that we thought you were. Yeah. So if you're trying to put yourself in a position to be taken seriously like a Nashville, like an Austin, like an Indianapolis, like even a Kansas City, if you're going to be taking that seriously, then you need to behave like it. And St. Louis refused. They love the lip service. They love talking big shit. But St. Louis is not in the business of actually doing shit. And that reason, and that to me, I don't understand because why keep saying that you want to be something else when you're clearly doing the opposite to stay where you are? That's what I don't understand. If you want to be that podunk town, then say that. Thank you.
It's the biggest small town in America.
St. Louis should embrace it. St. Louis, if you want to be the podunk Midwestern town, then let's do that. That's fine. Then don't cry about football teams leaving because podunk towns don't have football teams. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about MLS soccer because podunk towns don't have those things. So you can't sit up here and say you want to be taken seriously like the big boys, but you keep shitting your Pampas. I don't understand that. And until St. Louis decides, okay, we're going to have to do things that we're not used to doing, they're going to always be that podunk town in Missouri.
So probably the thing that really stood out to me as the crescendo is during that last 3 or 4 month point for me when it was, there was this. Once again, with your black ears, you always hear things a little bit differently. But like I said, is that I am willing to hear you try.
Right.
I'm willing to, because to a certain extent it amuses me, and to a secondary extent, I like to see when people feel like they can empower me to do things that I can do on my own.
Right.
And they present it like it's a thing where it's like, oh, this is an amazing opportunity I'm giving you, and I'm like.
That which is in itself is as you get older again, you're just like, oh, this does not feel right.
Yeah, this is not going to work. So here's a little tip into what the radio business is. You want to be on the air during drive time in the morning when people are in their cars, or you want to be in during afternoon drive when people are in their cars. Mm-hmm. Unless you have a nationally syndicated or you just really have a strong, recognizable name voice that people are going to search out for you in, the middle of the day, after 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the weekends, that ain't the time.
That ain't cutting.
That ain't the time.
Right.
That's not the time to be on there. You have to truly have people that are looking for you to want to turn on the radio then.
True.
But during that time, the secondary leadership of the station during my time there came to me with this, what I'm sure they just felt was a great idea. I want to do a show that gives minority voices a chance. Kind of like the one you're listening to right now. But
very, 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 very.
I had this grand idea. I want this thing to be an amazing thing that we've never heard before. Kind of like what you're hearing right now.
We never talked about this at all, though, period. So you gonna talk about this?
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right.
So we call. I say, well, I've got a thing already.
Right.
I don't really need to start from A with this. I'll kind of explain it to you a little bit. Let me know what's going on with it. I was talking about the scenario. I was talking about our show that we have here now, which is a highly adaptable show that we can do in a lot of different formats.
Right.
Talk about all kind of different shit.
Yeah, exactly. We could do this
like
thing.
a show supposed to be.
We could make this a PG show,
right, and
make it to where it's completely compliant for regular airwaves.
Of course.
We could do live reads. We can do whatever we need to in this show. But, so we have a conversation about what it would look like for the show to be featured on the station, albeit in a different way. So I called Daryl and I say, hey, come meet with me. We have 2 meetings, one where we kind of go over it and talk about different things. And then we have a meeting with people from the station where it's pitching this thing. Now, there's one guy that comes to the meeting who is like a a connected person in the area in St. Louis, an African American gentleman, who comes to the thing and is just kind of there, just kind of observing and kind of listening and, doing that. And what this vision for the show was going to be was pitched to all these different people and things like that. I talk about what it is that I do. Daryl talks about how he goes. We do it. It's all good. It's good. It's like, all right, we'll see what we got going on. Sounds like we got a thing. Now, already this thing was being put into a corner, if you will, which would have been a Sunday morning programming.
So you were already compromising out the gate.
Yeah. But you know what? Okay.
Right.
Because I'm not saying like it's entitled.
We'll
like
make it happen.
We'll make it happen because
Right.
we got a followership and we'll do this and we'll make it be a thing, because this is a way to utilize my skill set
Right.
and who I am and to speak to a different demographic that might not be listening to the station.
Right.
So all these names are thrown around for people there. But then, what ends up being kind of there's two big reveals in this. Number one, there's the idea for a third person to be a part of it who is a woman who happens to be an African-American woman who I have no idea who they are. But it's
Never met her before in my life.
Never met her before. And she needs to be a part of this so that all minorities' voices are heard.
Jeez.
I said, but wait a minute, didn't we already erase the female voice from one program? And then you say we're going to have creative control on the show, but we're going to reinsert it into something already like this. But I was like, all right, this doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so time goes by, we do this, and it comes back, and it said is that, oh, well, we spoke to this one gentleman, and he doesn't think that we'll be able to sell the show. And I said, this one black guy speaks again for all of black St. Louis.
Yeah.
So, we sit here and we look at this, and I say, but this thing is already working. We were kind of doing you a favor.
Right.
We didn't need to come that way.
Oh, we're fine. We're good.
We independent, baby. We out the trunk.
Yeah, we're
So
good.
when that is
we
happening,
keep 100% of anything that comes into this show for ourselves.
now I know, and I don't get to say this often on my own radio show because of FCC regulations, but I know you gentlemen as real niggas, and so when you hear that in that moment, because look, man, you from U City, and I know be bullshit when you hear it.
Oh, yeah.
So I would imagine that when you guys are hearing this, that what's going on in your head, because it's not to be funny, but it sounds like this person who was coming up with this idea,
This innovative, cutting edge idea.
was clearly incompetent, didn't know what he was really doing, and he was masking that. And so I know you two,
I don't
being
know
real
if
as
a
you
black
are,
person would even know, unless I would think of even a halfway nitwit black person would want to meet the two black people before they said that this show wouldn't work.
right,
That's why I knew it was bullshit.
right,
Because they would be like, well, let me meet these dudes doing, see what they own. That's because I don't care if you Clarence Thomas, though, you would still be like, what they look like, what they talk like. I don't even know. Like, they could be my guys. Like, we could be having a young Republicans meeting on everything. No, I need to meet these guys. Now, if he met us though, and he was like, oh, these niggas is some real niggas. And these ain't niggas that's going to be, they're going to be talking about,
it's gonna be two.
I was saying this university football.
BT uncut. I don't know if we gonna be ready for all
You know,
this.
they got
You're not gonna
strippers
drop.
in the
You're not
studio.
gonna
Got strippers
drop.
in the studio and everything.
Yeah,
he
you're not gonna-
got sponsorship from Pink Slip. Rest in peace to the Pink Slip.
You aren't going to drop a piece of formatted wordage in front of us and we're going to just start saying it
Right.
because this is what you want for it to be. And it's the same thing to start if everything else is presented this way, but eventually it's going to try to be appropriated.
Oh, and not only that, here's the best part about all of that is that he, in his mind, this person in their mind thinks they have done the most progressive thing now in the world because they have now gone out of their way to reach out to two black male voices to try to get them to be a show on the station. In that person's mind now, they believe they are the most progressive, forward-thinking person in
Even
the
though it
world.
doesn't do it
And
on
it
there.
doesn't do shit.
So,
Exactly.
So here's what it is. So let's do the total scorecard on this whole thing at the
Okay.
end of the day. So instead of keeping the black voice in the primary time slot that it can be in, you marginalize it by putting it in one of the least listened to parts of the radio for the black community, which is during church
Mm-hmm.
on a Sunday morning.
But we was gonna blow that shit up. I had fucking Steve Prom maybe coming on from Iowa State.
You
Is it
were messing
because that was
around.
right before the Iowa State Mizzou basketball game last year. I'd already talked to everybody. It was gonna be on.
But so the thing about it is that, you know, once again, though, it's putting people in a silo where you can say you're doing something, but you're really not doing shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that doesn't cut it. You know what I'm saying? So this is just like, and it's this, and the thing that really to me is I know this is happening other places. Like, I know that this is happening in other cities, that the lack of opportunity comes because it's a lack of being in lockstep with what is believed by them, and a fear of what you might say, a fear of who you might be. And I have fun on this show, and I do what I need to do. But if you put me into an actual radio station, and then you put the FCC guidebook around me and stuff like that, I'm as professional as it can come.
Right.
Whether I've hosted shows that are news chronicle shows here. I've done shows where there's a satire underlined. I've done things where there's a pure sports talk. I can talk about anything. I can do it any type of way. And my color is the least of concern when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. Until you start telling me that I need to take a position on behalf of what I look like.
Right.
That I ain't doing for anybody.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't understand the motivation behind that. I try to get inside the heads of a lot of people from time to time in positions of authority, and I just want to understand their thought process. And here in St. Louis, it's just been consistently disappointing to see people who are ready to make that big breakthrough for the city of St. Louis, whether it's on the film and television side, or the radio side, or the stand-up comedy scene here in St. Louis. Like, there are so many people ready to break through and truly turn St. Louis into this just place.
St. Louis is going to turn into Oklahoma City.
But that's where it's headed.
No.
When you keep drowning on the talent,
but what I'm
exactly
saying by
what's
that
gonna
is
head.
that they just going to have national shows that's going to be to be pulled into this market, period.
Right. There is no one particular responsibility. And I will say this even of the bigger stations. I will say this with all due respect to KMOX here in St. Louis. I will say this in respect to the FM stations, is that they are not doing enough to cultivate the next new voices of this city. And I think that's a disservice, especially to a city that prides itself on its journalism, that prides itself on its media. It's disappointing to see that.
Is the great DJ say who they broke lately? What records y'all broke? What new talent y'all done broke? It's the same motherfuckers that's 60, 70 years old on the air right now.
And that's the thing. And then there's, again, what happens is that there's a talent drain out of the city of St. Louis. So
ain't nobody wants to come to the market, though. So you can't bring nobody into the market, though. So if you was already earning, you doing dope, and they can maybe be like, oh, we going to bring this dude that's dope from fucking Jersey that's doing this thing. We going to pen them up together, though, bring them in St. Louis. You can't even do that to even bring in new talent to even pair up, because you have no new talent to pair up with the dope new talent that's already popping in somewhere else.
Right. And that's why you see a drain. That's why you'll see people, of course, quick
ship
to flock out to Chicago, Atlanta, L.A., New York, and obviously those are places of opportunity. But St. Louis has the talent base where you can truly grow it, and it's, again, for whatever reason, the desire not to do it, the desire to keep things as usual, people here who are in positions of authority are just so
hey, man, some of these people got to die, man. Some of these people got to die. No disrespect. I don't want anybody to die, though, but I'm just saying in general, with racism, anything in general, some of these motherfuckers got to die.
In St. Louis, and I don't know if it'll ever happen because we're such a divided city on so many other fronts, but I would love to see that voice or personality, that one personality that can galvanize the city and the county, that can galvanize big and small businesses, and essentially say, hey, let's get on one track. And I think until that voice comes about, or that voice is given the opportunity, I think St. Louis is going to always.
The only way it's going to happen, though, is if that person is not in St. Louis and comes back.
That's the only way it happens.
They're going to have to blow up doing something else somewhere else, just like everybody else that's coming out of St. Louis that did anything great. They had to go somewhere else and then come back, or that's a St. Louis boy.
St. Louis is awesome at being proud of people after they've already not supported them and they had to leave to go be themselves somewhere else.
Shit. And that's what's going to take. It's going to be somebody that left. They got a job in fucking Northern Jersey
Right.
at some radio station killing it, doing their shit, and they end up hiring them back, and they be like, oh, the St. Louis boy comes back home. I guarantee you right now, they send out a contract to Bob Costas every 3 months, just as with a blank check with it. Every 3 months, I guarantee you. I guarantee it's 5-6 stations that just send him a contract.
Right.
And it's probably somebody's job to like, it's on their calendar, a little reminder on your Outlook.
Right.
Oh, send Bob Costas the contract with the blank check just to see what he feels like.
It is frustrating because you see so many great.
And they
talents.
shit on Bob Costas too though when he was here though too on the low.
Well, I mean,
too. They didn't fuck with him either though until he left either.
But
though.
again,
let's keep it 100.
That's always been sort of the mindset of a lot of people here in St. Louis, and that's really unfortunate because again, being able to do this show now for almost 3 years here on St. Louis Radio, we've gotten the opportunity to meet so much great local talent and people who we know are going to be the next big thing, certainly in the comedy scene. They're coming out of the city of St. Louis, and I can say that confidently. And so when I can say something like that confidently and still see a lot of the people here in this town find new ways to shit on them, it's very depressing because you know that they're going to be the next John Hamm. You know they're about to go out and be the next Sterling K. Brown. And here you guys are with the opportunity to see him 3, 4, 5 days out of the week, and you won't even give them the time of day. But damn, if they blow up on an NBC show and they have a show at the pageant, you better believe everybody. I remember when Matt. Y'all remember when Matt used to come down to the church and Matt would do his song and that. I remember that, Matt. I sure did. Well, look at him now. He at the pageant. Look at that, Matt.
The thing about it for me is that if anything, people kind of look at that whole experience and that whole thing there and can kind of find, like, oh, man, that's fucked up. That's bad. The things that bother me the most is when they tried to do things that were divisive and then tried to pit, like, your show against my show and, like, tried to make it be a thing where it's like those guys are the bad guys and those guys are the good guys and they suck and they're no good and they're the best thing going.
But there's two different time slots, though. You can't compete with them.
It was
two completely different programs. Like, it's not even the same thing.
But we read that play almost as if it was coming out of the huddle. Like, we knew we were sitting back like some savvy NFL DBs. Like, oh, I know he wanted to throw the slant route. I know he wanted to throw the slant. I knew the writing. I knew it right away. There was a story that immediately got put into the St. Louis Post's patch.
It was just amazing.
Essentially,
how quick that happened.
and mind you, the story that was put into the major newspaper here in St. Louis got no quotes from the two parties they were attempting to pit against in this story, and I immediately went to the radio station's fan page and I made it clear as possible that there was no rivalry, there was no beef, there was no confrontation, because I knew how this story was going to go. It's going to be this show versus that show. These people aren't talking to these people, and then all the funny stories start coming out the wood. Oh, Travis, he threw a drink in Matt's face, and all it blows up into something else. And we knew right away. Matt and I was like, I already see this play because I have a love and respect for what Matt's show is, what it's been able to do. We have no beef whatsoever. And seeing that and going through it, and again, these are things we talked about a lot in college in theory, but to actually see it, like, oh shit, they are really attempting to pit the only two black guys against each other. Like, this is happening in real life. Like, this isn't a movie. This isn't a Dawson Creek episode. This is some real, like, they are pit. Like, me and Matt didn't know each other for multiple years prior to this. It was as if, oh, no, we'll just go to the old playbook. We're going to say that Travis hates Matt and Matt hates Travis. And we're going to put it in a major newspaper, and we're just going to let it do its thing. Like,
well, and so basically what it is, it's the goddamn scene off Django with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I gotta turn my mic off for that. I'm muting myself.
It's the damn Django scene. That's what they tried to make it be. But I mean, at the end of the day, the scorecard to me is really simple. Is that in the city of St. Louis, there are absolutely no black voices that have the microphone open to them that's provided by an established media outlet to discuss the matters of the day. There is not a single one, and it is a travesty. And everybody who has a platform that's developed is complicit.
What's so
Everybody.
funny is that
agree.
it's not just St. Louis. The more I think about it, it's not just St. Louis.
No, it's not.
No,
It's
it's
not.
not.
It's not just St. Louis though. Too. I know we've been ragging on just the crib like that, but it's Chicago got that fucking
Yes.
issue. Fucking Kansas City got the
KC
issue.
has
fucking
it. I've seen it
Minneapolis
in
got the
KC.
issue. Fucking Memphis, Nashville.
I've seen it
But
in
you know, and
Atlanta.
the thing,
We've
and the
seen it
thing,
all
and
over
the
the
thing that
country.
the thing that because of that is I say, okay. I say, okay, cool.
Right.
We know how the game is played, and this is for everybody,
True.
anybody that's listening. Number one, recognize that this is how the game can be played.
Yeah.
And I don't say this is to discourage anybody from going to work for anybody.
Right.
If you have an opportunity, you have to take it.
Absolutely.
Especially as an African American journalist or an African American voice, writer, musician, whatever it is. Take the opportunity that's there. However, you have to make it be for you what it can't be for anybody else.
Agreed.
You have to work harder to own your own voice and then eventually to own your own business to go with that voice, because then you control where it goes. I will say without a doubt that while I'm willing to cash whoever's checks, if you're going to hand me a check in order to do it and you're going to tell me to do a job that I know
Give me
how
the
to
loot.
do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because we're about to get this money out here no matter what, because money is power. And having money enables you to be able to take your voice wherever you need to take it. But the thing I'm going to say, though, is that I never wait for anybody to hand me anything out in life.
Because it ain't coming.
Because it
Not
isn't
for us,
coming.
especially.
It isn't coming.
Zero.
We
coming.
we have to put ourselves in position to support ourselves.
True.
And that's why when people say things about why is it that, black people, it's important to have a unified voice as opposed to anybody else. Because the opportunity that we get is more likely than not to be supported by us than torn down by somebody else. Right. That's just the truth of the matter, especially right now. You have to be adaptable to the times that you live in. So, my story, Travis's story, in that particular thing, Daryl, you were there for, a quick hot. You saw it. I mean, you seen it. You literally can be a corroborating witness to everything
we
we
had
saw.
a co-host on New Line like, oh, no disrespect to this woman when I say this. I ain't gonna do that.
Okay.
Fuck it, man. Fuck it.
You know how you don't like women.
See, now you see how you try to turn the whole cast on me and everything. No, I'm saying
Nobody's gonna say
she's
anything
old as
back.
fuck. No doubt. No, she's old as fuck, man. Like she was like, yo, y'all show is way. She's like, y'all already got chemistry.
Like, she
way
didn't
more.
even
She
wanna
was like,
be
yo,
in
she
it.
didn't want to be. She's like, y'all chemistry, even in regular conversation, is nothing I can even involve myself.
How
in.
bizarre, though, at this moment in your life, it was 2017 of our year Lord, that someone would think that, all right, well, she's a black woman, so naturally this thing should work. This is going to work.
And there's nothing wrong with us having a woman co-host.
No.
But we could have got a whole bunch of other women that would have melted
Right.
with our whole demo that would have been flowing with us, talking shit. Like, me and him, we fucking got this shit. We got this shit.
Or how creative it would have been for this individual to go, I would love for you guys to add a female voice to this.
And we
Who
would've
would
got
you
it.
Oh,
recommend?
no.
And that's what I'm saying is, but that's the thing. But that's what I'm saying is, so my thing is, if we're doing this like professionals, I trust that you two are professionals because
Or if you had somebody you think about, hey, can you test around and see what y'all think about it?
that would have been one thing. But I would have, again, if it was a situation where I like what you have, I think that you guys should add maybe a third female voice. Who would you have in mind? See, and to Matt's point, when we were under a different set of management,
That's
we were
exactly
given that opportunity. The things would be, hey, we think you should add this element.
What you
Who
think?
do you think? And so it can be done. And I think it's good that we had those both experiences because it truly has shaped,
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
the way we approach the business now. And I'm happy. It was a baptism by fire. And we went through it, and it was a son of a bitch to go through it. Don't get me wrong.
No,
it wasn't
I know.
as if
I remember you
going
stressed
through,
the fuck
it was,
out.
it was, and it's because, especially when you're so close to doing what you truly love,
And it's
that's
like
what
you right
everybody
there,
fights
you right
for.
there, you
You're
right there at the cusp.
You're so
you
close.
like, yo, like, well, I got this shit. We
Yes.
got this shit.
And so you're trying to do whatever you can to hold it all together. But to Matt's point, it's important for anyone getting started in this industry to recognize what you're up against, to recognize that it ain't all cookies and milk and that it won't be. And so as long as you understand what you're up against, I think you're fine. It's just being able to be prepared. And for us, now we have the experience, but we still recognize there's a major void in the city that we grew up and love, and we feel like not only can we fill that void, other people behind us and that we know can also do the same. And we just think that it's far past time for these people in places of authority to finally let that happen. It's just so disappointing to see us still struggling
I'm
with this
cool with them
conversation
not
in
doing it.
2018.
They ain't gonna make no money coming up in these years though. They dead. They are dead.
And-
They're zombies. They dead men walking, as they say.
That's bad.
They're not gonna make no money. There's no way. All this money out here is on having diverse vision, diverse views. All this shit is dinosaur shit, man. This is you just holding on to some
Just
shit,
like sports
hoping
breaks
on.
in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I remember you guys doing that, and when you all right. So when you go see your boy either play a game, play football, or play basketball, or go do his thing if he doing stand up, and in a moment you just know, you're one with them mentally.
Yeah.
I remember when that sports break was a thing on your show, and I was driving home, and I immediately thought Matt has to be absolutely livid right now. And obviously Matt didn't express it on the show, but you kind of just felt the vibe. Like it was just like two black men simpatico just going, I know Matt is pissed off right now. And so that's what it felt like. I was just like,
It's like you're sitting there eating your dinner and somebody takes the plate away for 5 minutes and then puts the motherfucker back in front of you. And you're like you sitting there looking and like you're stunned for like you're sitting there, you got a fork in your hand and there's nothing on the table in front of you and it's gone, and then somebody puts it back like, all right, now you can keep going.
no, man, I can only know the feeling, and it pains me to see people that put so much time and energy into something, like, because we all know each other. We all were there when we were drinking that Carlos Rossi out the jug. We all been, you know what I'm saying? We all know each other. We've drank together. We've kicked it together.
Carlos Rossi though?
I had some last night.
No, but my brother said that we dated ourselves with Carlos Rossi.
No, that's an absolute. That's a still young. That's a millennial beverage. I think.
know.
I don't
Okay,
know.
maybe
No.
not.
Well,
Maybe
no,
not.
yeah,
I don't even know
no.
if I-
So you dating yourself.
I don't even
I
know
found
if-
out that Carlos Rossi is not like the young.
It's the
wine.
OG drink. It's definitely the OG drink.
Yeah, but I thought it was like the young OG drink though. Like
I think
just
it
start
is.
drink. No, that's the point. Is that you're fucking dating yourself.
Okay,
you know what
look,
I'm
okay,
saying?
good.
So nobody young that listens to our shows will be like, Carlos Rossi, what is that?
Then they missing out. Then that's their fault. But to that point, I just think like when your peoples put their ass into it,
Yeah.
and they don't get a fair shake, it's very frustrating, because especially when, and maybe I'm going too far on the end, but especially when other mediocre products are given more leeway.
Yeah.
So that's why it can be frustrating, because you're like, I know my issue.
But see, that's why I'm
better
thinking
than
the
that.
podcast shit, everything we doing now, that's opening up the game, no period. Where they fucking failed on a lot of different areas. It's like the record industry, TV, radio, all of them did not fucking get the streaming on the side for TV. The radio didn't understand, like, I can have 10 more shows just downloadable on the website.
Right.
It's podcasts, and pay them and get advertising and say, okay, well, you can't pay the $1,000 for this week. We do $500. You be on the podcast
Right.
with these two guys. They didn't even realize that shit.
I think one thing, and maybe Matt,
So they didn't get the business shit either, though.
Well, maybe Matt, you can speak to this from the business side. It felt like also people in a business they had no business being in. It felt like, and I'm not saying you have to be a radio or broadcast guy to get into it, but it felt like people in an industry that just did not know how it truly operated. I'm not expecting this person to be an expert, but I'm expecting you to have a general
Well,
idea.
you need to have an appreciation for the boundaries of your
It's like
involvement.
loving the culture.
Or in that too. That's
It's
you're
like
very
if
true.
If you're a money guy, be a money guy. If
Right.
you're a programming guy, be a programming
Good
guy.
point, good
if you're a
point.
talent, be a talent. If you have a little bit of skill in both things, whereas you can be a talent and do some business side, that's good. But don't do things you have no precedence to be involved in.
Right.
Basically, don't be Donald Trump.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to The Apprentice. This has been the final call hour with the Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'll be speaking in a minute. He'll be right on after this, though, giving you the final call of blackness. Stay tuned in. We will be here every week. Matt will be on Kings Highway and That's Your Bridge.
Nice.
And I will
Good
be on Martin
location.
Luther King and Kings Highway, selling you your final calls and bean pies if you need available. Where will you be at, my brother? You were at Temple.
I'm going to be at the Riverview Circle. I'm going to be running in the circle
So you
while trying to hand out final calls. I'm going to be literally jogging around that hole like, here, I'm going to get you. I got you. A flyer. I got you. You ain't going to stop me.
You better come to Mosque 10. You better come to Temple number 10. You better be there, brother.
Man, I would love to see somebody handing out final calls in the Riverview Circle. Please, God, please let me go get my drone.
This is
so
the
I
thing.
can
One of my
film
dreams was to show up with final calls to a radio station and read them on the air. Just
God.
The final call. It'd be just some random thing during the week on Wednesdays. I'm gonna just read randomly out the final call. I don't know what's gonna be. You don't know what's gonna be. We gonna find out together what's in the final call.
That sounds good to me.
But it would be a comedic section of like, we gonna find out what's in the. I was riding through Kings Highway National Bridge. What was in the final call this week? We had white people mad, black people mad, whoever.
Let's just piss everybody off.
Yeah, just piss everybody off with that shit. This week in the final call, Gen X is only going after black people. Oh, really? And it's only on Fair and Natural Bridge. Oh, really? Okay. That sounds real good.
Go figure.
Yeah. Shout out to Fair and Natural Bridge.
Well, we had a whole nother subject.
Yeah, we ain't doing that.
We're not going to be able to
We're
do
not
that
doing
today.
that.
Travis,
It's
you
final
come back.
call hour.
Oh, no
I think
doubt.
I might make
No
the
doubt.
picture though. I might put Travis on the front of the final call on the cover for this
Hey, man,
episode.
I've done a very good job avoiding possible, maybe, could have baby mamas, and I would like to keep it that way.
Oh, you been on the final call? Get you baby mamas?
I just don't want anybody.
So you
to
messing
know
with
that
girls in the Muslim temple?
I just don't
Is
wanna-
that so? You don't want to be? So you was in the Muslim temple?
See,
You was in mosque number 10?
I've said too much. I've already said.
He was
too
in
much.
mosque number 10?
See now, my phone gonna be tapped. That was great. Put myself back on the grid.
Oh man! So no, I won't do that to you then, brother. Thank you. We will figure it all out though. Where can everybody hit you up at the online?
Oh yeah, please check us out on weareliveradio.com. St. Louis Live on WGNU 920 AM here in
Yes,
St.
sir.
Louis. We have a really cool charity event coming up at the end of November where we're basically raising money for mental illness stigmas to basically bring about awareness.
That's real.
So we're very excited to keep moving forward, man. So check us out, weareliveradio.com.
What is your personal? Somebody can say any.
Oh yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Black BLAK to the future. That is my Twitter handle. You could just mostly just catch me.
You got IG?
I have IG, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I have not used my IG in like a year and a half.
You got a lurking IG.
I got
you have a lurker IG.
Oh, I have to. Yeah,
You're there, but you ain't there.
Right. You may see me occasionally like something from your page 6 weeks ago, and I apologize, but I didn't know you put that one bikini picture up, so I had to at least show my appreciation.
I've turned into that though. Like I realized, like somebody's like, man, you ain't really posting in like 3 weeks.
How about I be on there every day?
but I'm on there every day though.
I tell you what, y'all people are out here fucking living, and I'm not. So I'm just there. I'm just up top.
That's the real
I'm
shit.
just up top in the balcony, like, ooh, that is so nice. Look at that vacation. Was that with a dolphin?
And also you see the crazy shit happening within the game though. So if you watching the crazy shit happening, you're like, oh shit, they fighting over in stand number 6. I ain't gonna go down there either though. So you stay in your little rafters, stay in my little $15 bleacher ticket.
I'm the guy, the creep in the corner behind the curtain. I'm just looking out from time to time.
Now if she come up to the bleachers though,
oh, then that's a whole nother story.
then you, hey, you want a beer?
Yeah,
you up her?
Nuh-uh. Yeah. So if you sent me a DM at any point recently, I haven't picked it up or read it.
Oh, you ain't checking.
I'm telling you.
Oh, I check all my DMs, even though I'm not on there for real. I check all my DMs.
Yeah, that's because you can do that.
I haven't got no DM in a long time. Long time. Real depressing actually. Long. That's neither here nor there. I shouldn't be getting DMs though either though. But
no, you should not.
But it's something about getting a DM though that boosts
That's
up
like abort.
I know, but it's something about it that boosts up your spirits, man.
All right, man.
Somebody be like, "What you doing?" I'm like, God damn, I won't even respond.
When your girl take the spirit out of you, that's a whole.
No, that's fine. But I'll tell her too. Like, I just need somebody to look my spirits.
Oh wow! Oh goodness!
I need it. I got an ego like that sometimes.
I'm glad y'all are in those type of comfortable relationships.
I didn't say it's
God
comfortable.
bless y'all.
Didn't say it was comfortable.
Okay.
I didn't say I was honest about it.
He didn't say he's
I
excited
didn't say it
about
was. I didn't say it. I didn't say it was just like, oh, it's all good. I was saying I was honest about it.
That's fair.
That's a different thing.
Considering we're doing this on Halloween, shout out to everybody who checked out the episode last week.
Oh
keep
man, the
those type
Game
of brothers
Busters, man. Shout
out
out to Baylor the Great. They gave us a great rundown.
Yeah,
people would say that we was. I forgot. People said that we forgot the ring. No, with women.
I don't discuss that movie.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm just saying there's people because they were saying we had too many men. The Ring was somebody with a woman that we should have had.
I can't do that because I won't be able to sleep tonight. Meanwhile, LeBron James is shown to the Staples Center tonight in full Jason Voorhees attire, however, with some Burberry sweatpants on, which lets you know when you can't find no raggedy clothes, and the most closest thing you got to
so
raggedy
he said he's
clothes.
so rich that was at the
Look
bottom.
at that Burberry at the bottom. He's so rich that he doesn't have regular
no
sweatpants. I had to look at the bottom and see what it was. But
Are you serious?
It says
He ain't got no
Burberry.
little Nautica sweatpants. He just throw on real quick.
No, his Nautica is Burberry. So God bless LeBron James. And for all the things we talked about tonight, LeBron James proves you can still be black and unrepentantly successful if you take it into your own goddamn hands.
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Email us straightolc@gmail.com. It is changed now on iTunes. You can put in SOC Network via the scenario. So you can search the scenario on iTunes and on Stitcher. Everywhere we at, it's all changed up. It should be soon. I say take 2 or 3 days though, so we'll see. But thank y'all for listening as always. We'll be back soon. Peace.